I'll tell you what, man. There ain't much more I like doing other than making music. I really like making music. I find it quite satisfying. But a funny thing happens when you start to make music. You start to make music and you fucking suck at it. And you're like, holy shit, I fucking suck at it. I'm looking at all these guys that are fucking professionals who play fucking cycles around me. And here I am, I can't carry a tune to save my fucking life. But lo and behold, you fucking practice. And you fucking practice. You make your fingers bleed. You build up the calluses. You build up the muscles in your hands and your wrists. You build up the memory, the sensation of it. And before long, you find you can make music. What's kind of interesting about it is you still sort of feel like you suck. You always want to make music that expresses yourself. And that music comes from a funny place. Because it comes from the world around you. It comes from what you see. It comes from what you feel, what you hear. It comes from your life experiences, man. All these things sort of gather up in your head and you sit down at your instrument and you say, fuck man, what am I going to play? When you sit down to play, you find that all these life experiences sort of come out in their own way, your own personal taste. It's a lot of fun because it feels, well, it feels a little bit like having an orgasm. Having this thing that sort of builds inside you and you sort of get blue-balled for a while until you can get it out. That's the frustrating part about starting off making music. You want to make music, but you don't quite know how to get the sounds in your head out through your instrument. Now when you play something like a guitar, it's interesting because a lot of tonality comes out of your guitar. A lot of tonality comes out of your amplifier. A lot of tonality can come out through your pedals, through your recording setups. All these things have to work together and it's a fuck ton of work trying to get them all to sound right. It's about tweaking. It's about playing around with something and understanding what your changes are doing to affect the sound. But lo and behold, again, it's like practice. You sort of develop those calluses in your mind to satisfy your own ears by being able to express your experiences of the world that you perceive. I'll tell you, man, I really like to jam. I like a good jam session. I like riding my motorcycle too. I'll tell you the difference. It's quite satisfying, both in the same sort of regards as far as the level of stimulation I get out of it. Now, what's quite interesting about riding a motorcycle is I can sort of get away from it all. I can sort of ride out into the countryside and get away from everybody and everything and just kind of be my own person. Be my own sort of human being as an individual without real judgment. You get away from people, nobody really sees you. You can push yourself, you can challenge yourself. You can be who you are, you can excite yourself. You can do all these wonderful, fantastic things. Just by riding a goddamn motorcycle. I don't ride a motorcycle to get recognition. I just enjoy doing it. So that brings me back to the music. Now, as you start to play, after a couple of years of playing, you'll probably find that you get kind of decent at it. As you get kind of decent at it, you find people's opinions of you change. When you first start out, you know you suck. Everybody knows you suck. They're going to tell you you suck. Because they're going to look at you funny. They're going to hear you play and they're going to go, yeah, that's disgusting, man. You got to go back and fucking practice more. So you go back and you practice more. And more, and more. You practice till you fucking had enough. Sometimes you put your instrument down for a while. You won't play it. You'll come to resent it because it doesn't do what you want. Until you leave it alone long enough to realise it's not going to do what you want until you make it do what you want. You have to learn to bond with it. You have to learn to become one with it and flow through it. So let me tell you a quick story about a jam session that was quite nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. It was a stormy day. It turned into a very stormy evening. In fact, it was stormy as a fuck. Well, hello there, little pussy. Say hi to you quick. So in this stormy weather, I'm hanging out at my mate's house. We're about to jam. The rain was pouring down and the wind was kicking up, bashing all the trees around. You could hear the branches breaking, all the tree branches rubbing together. It sounded quite fierce. It was amazing. It was quite a form of energy to behold. I rather like a storm, to be honest with you. I think they're quite enticing to watch. Lo and behold, we're out on the porch. We smoke a joint to our face. Look at the weather. And I realise it's just a bunch of energy. It's just a bunch of chaotic fucking energy that just sort of happens. And you sort of look at Mother Nature as this brilliant sort of... Well, I don't really know how to describe it other than it's just pure chaos. And when it sort of has its way out, you just have to sit back and sort of be mesmerised by it. So high as a fucking kite, we go down to the basement to jam. We lock ourselves in this tiny little room. I'll sit on the drum set. Got two mates playing guitar. And we sort of start to let it out. Both the guitarists had 100-watt amplifiers. If you don't know what a 100-watt amplifier sounds like in a small basement room, I can tell you it's fucking loud. It's really fucking loud. I'm on the drums, I'm struggling to fucking keep up and cut through. I'm having to sort of play with all of my might. As we just sort of let it go, the music starts to flow. It's interesting because you don't really think about it, you just sort of have it out. You let it flow. I don't really remember what we played per se. I remember what instruments we played. But I probably couldn't tell you what we played because we didn't record it. But you could hear it in the moment. As you played it, it's quite an interesting thing again because you sort of sit back and remove yourself from yourself. You don't judge yourself. You sit back with sort of this task to perform that you've practiced so many fucking times before. Hours and hours and hours of practice. And the accumulation of that is just sitting back on the drum set, trying to hold a beat that works while my mate's trying to blast out a melody. Try to tie them together, and that's quite difficult to do with two guitars going. But nevertheless, the less you try, the harder you seem to be able to work. You don't judge it, you just sort of let it happen. I really enjoy it. But the real difference between music and riding a motorcycle is it's hard to escape the music. I mean, people hear you, and people, when they enjoy your music, they want to hear you. They encourage it. They want to hear you play. And you feel obligated to oblige. So you feel a bit like it's your duty to bring a sense of satisfaction into the world of these people who want to enjoy your music. Like I said, I rather quite like it, but it's a fuck ton of work, man. People don't really appreciate what it takes to start getting going as a fucking musician. The amount of sound preparation, the hours learning how to practice just how to play, is nil compared to all the other oversights, creating the sound stage, dialing in the acoustics, making sure your bandmates are high as fuck so they can perform at their fucking very best, so that you can keep performing and have a reputation as a professional musician. It is very hard, and nobody understands it, because it appears quite fucking natural. I mean, that's the idea. All the blood, sweat and tears turns into something that looks, to the observer, like it's quite easy. I guess the bottom line is that night in the basement as I listened to the rain pour down on the house, breaking way only to the thunder and the lightning. It all just sort of is what it is. You never quite get it if you don't work at it. All of the things that lead up to that storm, well, that storm was a couple of years ago, and I just have to think that that storm had arisen from years and years of weather patterns that had come before. Nature doesn't really complain about its work, it just sort of does it. But then again, nature doesn't have a motorcycle. Nature doesn't have any other way. I guess that's all. That's probably all about what I have to talk about tonight. I hope that's helped enlighten you. I hope you go out and play an instrument. I hope you practice a little bit today. If you really do want to do it, a little bit of practice every day over the course of a couple of years really adds up. You'll be surprised. It does go by fast. I know it sounds quite cliche to say, but life does really go by fast. If you don't complain about the practice, and you just keep focused on what you're doing, the time will pass. And before you know it, you learn to be quite good at expressing yourself. Now, I do have to say, as far as whether or not you're able to gather an audience as well, that's a bit subjective. If you don't gather enough of the world to give back to it, what can I say? What can I say?